Hey guys, Captain CA here, and welcome back to the channel. In fact, today's fishing tip is all about springtime. Spring is here. Did you see these azaleas? Unbelievable, and I've got a yard full of them right now. Everything's hot right now. Temperatures on the upswing. Will there be a few more cold fronts? Sure, there'll be a few more cold fronts, but it is definitely headed in the right direction. And before it gets too busy and we start getting a lot of traffic on the water with spring breakers, I'm going to show you a little rigging tip for the old jerk shad that's going to make a huge difference in your fishing over the next couple of weeks. So let's get up to the shop and talk about it. Okay, let's talk about springtime jerk shad, soft jerk shad fishing. This is an incredible period in our season where you can have some outstanding action, especially on the bigger trout around the moons. You're going to notice that the redfish are starting to group up a little bit in some places, but the snook have definitely made their transition toward their spawning grounds. They're moving to the outside now. You're going to find them on outside flats, outside barrier islands, and they're hungry. This is the time of year when they're hungry. They're wanting to put weight on, so you're going to catch some really big fish. One of my favorite baits to do that with is the scented jerk shads. This is the Z-Man 5-inch scented jerk shads. Why 5-inch? I can just cast it farther. It's just, they're looking for big baits. I'm also fishing for those bigger trout around the moons because the trout are spawning as well. And then I've got the opportunity, if I see a tailing redfish, I can make a cast and I can catch them too. So it's that window in early March to early April when the next 30 days, I'm telling you right now, this is the time for you to be fishing. You've got to be fishing. And the jerk shad method works really good. Now, whether I'm throwing the new pilchard color, the red bone color, which is a favorite of mine, or what worked for me great last spring was this Gussie's Glimmer Blue. This color was just outstanding last year. Does a really good job of fooling them. But there's a couple of different ways I rig this jerk shad. So number one way, especially if I'm trying to focus on catching snook, let's just say I know some areas, I'm seeing them in these coves and things like that, and I want to get a reaction. The best way to get a reaction out of a snook is speed. Speed kills. It absolutely drives them nuts. So this is the first way that I like to rig it. I have this on a 7'3". This is it's a 7'2" medium heavy. This is in the Versa series. I have it on 10-pound braid, and I've got about 6 foot a leader here, but about 4.5 feet of the leader is only 15-pound fluoro. But that last 18 inches, that last 1.5 feet is 30-pound that I blood knotted. So look at this real quick. It's just a nose hooked fluke. That's it. A nose hooked jerk shad. This happens to be at like a 3/0. You could use a 4/0, but I like a 3/0 hook. It is not a circle hook. This is a J hook, an offset J hook. And I just like to dart this thing and keep my rod tip up and just work it fast on the surface, dipping it under, letting it come up, spit a little bit, dive back down, and I'm just working it as fast as I can. That quick, erratic motion drives snook wild, and they're looking to hit an injured or wounded lure or bait fish. This works. This whole rig weighs just a little bit under 1/2 ounce when you weigh it on a gram scale, and so your casting distance is fantastic. 10-pound diamond braid allows me to get super long casts like I've never had in the past. So that nose hook rig is absolutely my #1 springtime. Get it done, March, early April. Get it done for those snook. Now, let's talk about this rig right here that gives you a little bit, well, more opportunity for other fish. And that is, it's also nose rigged, but it's not nose rigged the way I rigged that one. Again, I got it on a 7'3" medium heavy rod. I got another 5-6 foot section of fluorocarbon leader. But you'll notice that this one, the way I have it rigged, is I ran the hook inside the body or the head of the bait there, okay? And that way I've got my knot protected inside the bait. It gives it more of a head down motion, okay? So when I tug, it's gonna make it go underneath the water. Now this is a circle hook that I put on this one. Why the circle hook? I feel like in this case where I'm dart, 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 and it kind of wants to pull back up and float, dart, 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 I'm really targeting more of the big trout than I am the snook. The snook will hit it, fished that way, but I can take my time methodically and work this over potholes for big, speckled trout on the big moons in March and April is when you catch some of your biggest trout. February, March, and April. That's the way it is every year. So this will produce some awful big trout. Those trout they catch these a lot easier than they would that fast moving bait on the surface where a big powerful snook will try to trap it on the surface. These trout will swim up when they see this bait working, dart, 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 flashing, and then popping up, dart, dart, dart. It looks like a mullet that's messed up or a pilchard that's messed up. It'll come up and eat it and swim down. Well, that circle hook gives you time on that slack line to reel down and you'll get them somewhere here in the hinge and you don't miss any fish. It's a great way to work it. Now, if you take a closer look, you'll see again on this one, I did snell the hook, okay? I just ran it inside the body and I have it come out that belly slot there, right in there. And it works great. This is a good looking way to work the lure. So the jerk shad now, you've seen 2 ways that I like to exercise these baits. Okay, I'm gonna set this one down, just put it out of the way right now so I don't make a mess. Now, the next way is where I'm definitely trying to get a little bit more depth. This is where I'm throwing to redfish that I see, or I'm fishing a little deeper groove and I want the bait to be a little bit deeper without having to use, well, a jig head. And this is what I do. I actually rigged this one on one of my casting setups. This is a 7.2 gear ratio on this. And I don't want a reel that's too fast because I'm trying to get a little bit more depth. Sometimes when you use those 8.0 and better reels, you can't slow yourself down and the bait keeps coming to the surface. So this is the chin locks. I've got this on 30-pound diamond braid. The 2 spinners had 10-pound diamond braid. I've got a long section, okay, on this one. This is all 30-pound fluorocarbon. I've got like 4.5 feet of it. So I didn't put any bite tippet. The way I rig this is I use a chin locks hook. So I'm gonna just hold this, let you get a good look at it. What I want you to notice is, see how far back I rigged it in the bait? It's further back than normal. You don't see the hook eye coming out the nose of the bait. I'm inside the bait. I go further back in the bait so that the bait will shimmy and go down, and I've got this weight on the belly that's positioned about more than halfway back. So it definitely keeps this bait rocking down and it'll keep it at depth. That way when I twitch, it digs a little bit because the nose of the bait flexes some and I can keep it down. So let's just say I wanted to go out and move to 3 feet of water, 3.5, 4 feet of water. There's just some deeper zones in some of the areas that I like to fish. So I might be fishing this shallow, and then I look and there's like this little funnel here with a little bit deeper water. Well, if I'm using the other 2 baits, I just can't get down if the fish are unwilling to come up on a bright day. But with this jerk shad rig, I get right down there on the bottom. I can work it through that grass because there's enough weight. And this whole rig here weighs over ½ an ounce. That's why I can throw it on my casting rod. Now this is, like I said, 30-pound diamond, 30-pound fluorocarbon leader with an FG knot. If you look right here, I've got an FG knot on this, right there. And it goes through the guides quite easily. And it gives me the advantage, this particular rig, like I said, to just work it a little deeper. But between these 3 jerk shad rigs, I'm telling you, I don't run into any scenarios where they don't work. 5-inch baits, they weigh the right, 5-inch baits, they weigh enough for long casts, accurate casts, and they allow me to catch the bigger fish because that's all I'm interested in catching right now. Are you going to catch your share of smaller fish here and there? You will on certain days, but all in all, I feel like springtime, when you've got these big fish that are moving out in transition, and you know you're going to run into your share of snook, your share of speckled trout, and your share of redfish. This gives you 3 different options laying on the deck to use. It's like if I'm not seeing a lot of snook, I'll go to that second rig. If I'm seeing a lot of snook, I stay with the nose hook rig, working it up like this. If I see some deeper zones where I think I might want to fish a little bit deeper because I'm not seeing fish, they're just little grooves, then I pick up the casting rod and I throw that jerk shad that's weighted a little bit more toward the back end of the bait, and it keeps this bait down at depth for me. Those 3 little rigs there, I'm telling you, they're going to change the way you fish this spring. I mean, I love throwing hard baits this time of year. I love throwing top water this time of year. But if you're a soft bait enthusiast and that's what you like to throw, you gotta try some of these Z-Man 5-inch jerk shads. They're scented. They do a fantastic job even when they're at rest. Okay, that's enough of this. If you want to see more of this type of information where I drill down even deeper, you should go to FlatsClassUniversity.com. At FlatsClassUniversity.com, we organize all this information I give you on YouTube into courses where my job is to make you a lot better at inshore fishing. So if you haven't checked that out, go there when you get an opportunity and see if it's something that you might be interested in being a part of. And until next time, keep those rods bent. That's what my job is make sure you guys are catching plenty of fish. All right, I'm gonna go load all this stuff in the skiff and go meet Captain Brian in the morning.